Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Yannick and today we will build an awesome web project. This video is sponsored by Syncfusion, a well-known company that provides us developers UI templates and additional programming libraries for all commonly used frameworks and programming languages out there, such as ASP.NET, Angular, React, MAUI, JavaScript and many more. Now let me tell you what we will build in detail during this video. We will create an Azure Functions application using ASP.NET. The final project will consist of 5 functions, and during this video you will not only learn how to create Azure Functions, but also how you can host them inside of the Azure portal. Now if you want to see more C# content, make sure to like this video and to subscribe to our channel so that you no longer miss any new content. Now let's get started with Azure Functions, and during this video we will create some Azure Functions, so multiple, not only one, for PDF conversion. So what we will do is we will create an Azure Functions app, and inside of that app we will have multiple smaller Azure Functions, which we can use to convert different file formats to PDF. For example, plain text, Word, Excel, image, or even PowerPoint files. Based on Microsoft, Azure Functions is a serverless solution that allows you to write less code, maintain less infrastructure, and save on your costs. So instead of worrying about deploying and maintaining servers, the cloud infrastructure provides all the up-to-date resources needed to keep your applications running. An Azure Functions app is an application that contains one or more functions that can run by different triggers. A trigger is how a function is involved. Each function has only a single trigger. A function's trigger has associated data, which is usually provided as the payload of the function. And today we are going to create a function with HTTP trigger in action. And to create that function app, we need to set up our development environment first. So let's get started and set up our environment for developing Azure Function applications. Each function that we will develop has its own unique functionality, and we choose to create functions that offer amazing PDF conversion using the Syncfusion document processing library. So you can convert different file types like images, Excel files, PowerPoint presentations, Word files, and much more easily into PDF files. If you would also like to use this functionality, or if you're looking for amazing UI components for nearly every frameworks and programming languages out there, check out Syncfusion's huge library. Simply click the link in the description below. So what we will do in this video is we will use the Azure CLI to create the project, to host it and all of that. You can also use Visual Studio user interface, but I highly suggest you to follow along, download the Azure CLI. You can find the link in the description below, so download the Azure CLI and install it for Windows, Mac or Linux on whatever OS you are running. And also, so this is the first part, right, Azure CLI, and the second part is to install the Azure Functions core tools. This is a prerequisite, so don't skip that, you need it. You can also find the link for that in the description below. Just go here to GitHub, scroll a little bit down until you can find your desired installer for Windows, Linux or Mac OS, also here. So go ahead and install both of them. Now what you also want to have is you open up your Visual Studio installer, you select your desired Visual Studio version. We use 2022 right now, and you simply click on Modify. And once the list is loaded, you make sure to check the Azure Development Workload. You can see that right here, so Azure Development, right? Go ahead and check that if you want to follow along using Visual Studio to create the project and all of that. So simply, if you like, check that and install it. Now the final step that you for sure need to do is you need to create a Microsoft account, or to be more specific, you need to create an Azure account. So you can get started completely for free. You get like $200 in Azure credits, right? And afterwards you only spend what you actually use. So you can get started completely for free for, well, 30 days. And if you want to keep your resources, so your applications hosted in the cloud, you will for sure have to pay, but you can get started for free. So if you want to follow along, what you should definitely do, go ahead and set up your Azure account so that you can really log into the Azure portal to create resources and, well, to be connected with the cloud, right? So grab your Azure account and then we got all the prerequisites already set up. All right, so let's create our Azure Functions project. Therefore, let's create a new folder. I will create it on the desktop. I will call it Azure Function, just like that. Now I'm gonna right click on that, or I just open it up and then I click in that bar right here just to remove everything and write down CMD, which will open up a command prompt or command line just with the path set to that folder. Now what I want to do here is I want to set up the new project. So let's write down func new, set a template flag, set the template to HTTP trigger, and let's give a name, or let's provide a name. We set it to PDF conversion. There we go. Now I just hit enter, and inside of the Azure Functions, you will see that popping up just in a second. You will see then some files getting created just like that. So here we got properties, git ignore, Azure Functions C# project, and yeah, we got a host.json, local settings.json, and a PDF conversion.cs file. Awesome. So now let's just leave it like this and let's create our solution. So what I want to do now is I want to stay in that project, so in that same path, and create a new .NET, new solution, set the name to PDF conversion. So this will set up a solution. You can see that just in a second. Now let's add a new project to our solution. You can see that Azure Functions project here. So let's .NET SLN and then add the Azure _function.cs project. Now let's hit enter. You can now see project Azure Function is added to the solution. So we now set up the project using the command line. If you want to do it using Visual Studio user interface here, you simply go ahead and search for Azure Functions. There we go. Select that template and then you name it PDF conversion, right? I will not do that now. So name it PDF conversion, for example. Let's create that project. And the important part is that you select .NET 6.0, you set it to HTTP trigger, and very important, you set the authorization level to anonymous. That's really important. So in that case, you can just set up the project like this. Now from the project which we created using the command line, we also want to set everything to be anonymous. So let's get started and open up our project. Simply go into the folder and let's open up the solution using Visual Studio 2022. Awesome. So here we have our project. And inside of the solution, you can see the Azure Functions project. So let's just open it up and go to PDF conversion. So this is our first C# file that you can see here. And to make it anonymous, so that we can really get authorization from everywhere, or anonymous authorization, right? We want to change the HTTP trigger authorization level from function to anonymous. There we go. Next up, what we want to do is the first real function that we want to create is for converting text to PDF. So change the function name here from PDF conversion to something what the function is really doing. It is actually converting text to PDF. So that's awesome. Write it down like this, and then we set the name using the function name attribute of that specific Azure function. Now you can already see that this function consists of a static asynchronous task which is called run, and that this function will get triggered by an HTTP trigger here. Alright, so now let's start the project. So we can save it here. If you want to run that application now, you can simply press F5 in Visual Studio, or if you want to run it from the CLI, you can write down func start. So let's start the application. Let's simply press on that run button, or you can just press F5 as I said. Now you can see that command line popping up, Azure Function Core Tools, right? This is what we just have installed. And now you can see that we have a function which is called text to PDF. It's offering a get endpoint and a post HTTP endpoint. And you can see it's hosted on localhost 7114. This might be different for you, /API/text to PDF. Now, if we just try to go to that endpoint and call it, we can see a log of all of the information which are getting received by the server right here, right? Don't forget, we are not in Azure right now. We are setting up the Azure project, but it's getting hosted in the local host. It's not in the cloud yet for sure. If you are interested in C# web development, check out our ASP.NET and Angular 21-day challenge, or how we call it now, C# Progress Academy. You can find the link in the description below. It's a premium course, it takes 21 days and you need around 30 minutes per day to complete the course. And yeah, you will build an entire flight booking portal. You can read everything very in detail here on that page. And this course teaches you ASP.NET Core and Angular in the end, so that you are finally job ready. Alright, so let's test out this function. Let's copy over that URL here, http localhost API/text to PDF. So copy it, Control C for sure, and open up the browser. Now paste in the text and add an additional parameter. So add a question mark and set the name to any name you can think of. Now let's hit enter. You can now see, hello Yannick, this HTTP triggered function executed successfully. For sure, we are now doing it using the browser. You can really use any other HTTP testing tool like Postman, CRL, or whatever to really test this out, but the browser is for sure the easiest way to get started with that. So as you can see, we now requested the function to get started, and it actually worked because that hello Yannick is coming from our project. If we scroll down, you can see this here, hello name, this HTTP triggered function executed successfully. So we can assume that since this is a web application, right, or sort of a web application, we come here and go to the text to PDF endpoint, we can really start the function to get executed. Awesome. So now let's shut down the application. So we already renamed the function from PDF conversion to text to PDF. Let's also rename the file. So right click on PDF conversion here and simply click on rename and write down text to PDF. Alright, so let's hit apply. You can see that the C# file name also got adjusted. Now, one important thing to mention already now is that for each function, right, so this is a function, just that, code here, you got that function name attribute, which actually makes it a function. Each function we will create, text to PDF, Word to PDF, PowerPoint to PDF, and all of those will be in a separated class. So we will have one function in one C# file. And for sure, if you change the function name, again, you will have a different endpoint. So if we, for example, call that Word to PDF, our endpoint, which we would have to use then to start that function, would no longer be text to PDF, it would be Word to PDF, right? So the function name right here is configuring the endpoint name. Right, so you might be wondering why we can run the function using both get and post HTTP requests, right? You can see that configured here. This is why we would be able to make a get request or also a post request to get that function started. If we would remove the get request here, we would not be able to send get request to the function anymore. And if we would remove the post request here or the post trigger attribute, we would not be able to start that function using posts request anymore. For get request, we usually have that, query parameters. You can see how you can access them right here. So as you remembered, when we submitted the name for the get request call, we wrote it down into the browser bar, right, and said name is Yannick, and this is how you can really access the value. So you take that request object, you can see that right here, HTTP request, pretty decent C# class, right? And then you take the query and you access it just like this. So you have an iQuery collection here. So you use it simply like a dictionary, for example. If we scroll down, you will find how the request body, so the post request, which is usually containing a body, how this is handled, right? You take that request body, you take that stream reader, you read it to the end, you get the data, you take the JSON convert and deserialize the object so that you really get to that data. You check if in the data is a name, well, yeah, a name key value pair, and if yes, you take that name from the request body. Awesome. So this here is handling like the get request, and this one is kind of handling the post request, right? So this is how you can get the query parameter or how you can get data or information from the post body. Now, in the end, what we're doing here is we're returning a new OK object result, which is nothing else than just a simple plain text. Awesome. So now we need to take care about some functionality, right? Because this here is not doing anything what offers real value, but for sure as a programmer, you really want to build applications that offer some value. So let's get started and bring in our first functionality to convert our first file type into a PDF. So in the end, all of our functions will return PDF files instead of that simple response message right here. Okay, now we want to make use of OpenAPI. So we want to use Swagger to have like a user interface which we can use to test our application or our functions, right? So this is quite a better approach than just copying stuff to the browser search bar, right? Awesome. So let's get started. I just opened up a command line here in our root directory Azure Functions project, right? And we want to install a package which is called .NET add package, and the package name is microsoft.azure.webjobs.extensions.openapi. Now let's hit enter. You can now see that this package got added to our project, which is quite nice. So go ahead and start your project again. Now give it a second to load. And now you can see that we got that render Swagger UI right here. So go ahead and copy that URL. And once you open that up, you will come to a Swagger user interface made for our application, right? It's based on our application. And so far you can see that we have no operations defined in spec. For that, we simply need to mark our function as an API operation. So this is just a very small step that we need to do in order to get, well, our functions be testable inside of that Swagger user interface. So go ahead, go into the code, text to PDF. I will just shut down the application. Next time I will start using F5 and not the start button here. And now let's get some, well, more extensions in here. So you see Microsoft Azure Web Jobs, extensions, HTTP, and all of that. So what we want to do is I don't want to write them down here. I just want to use the OpenAPI operation keyword or attribute, and then let that using directives get handled automatically. So right below the function name, we want to add a new attribute. It's called OpenAPI operation. Now just give it a second to load. Let's add the parentheses, give it a second to load, hover above it, show potential fixes, using Microsoft Azure Web Jobs extensions, OpenAPI core attributes, right? So this is why I decided to not write that down manually because it's just incredibly long. Awesome. Okay, so now we have that OpenAPI operation attribute set up. This is basically all what we have to do. So let's go ahead and start the application. Let's hit Control F5. Okay, if you go back to Swagger now and update the page, you will be able to see default get text to PDF. So this is our endpoint right here. Now if we open that up, you can see that we have no parameter. But if we take a look at our code, you can see that we require a name, right? So we really want to have a name to get that function running. And therefore we need to add a parameter to the Swagger configuration. So go ahead, add a new attribute, call it OpenAPI parameter, and set the name to name. So this is the actual name of the parameter, right? Make it required. So set required to true. Now tell where it's provided. So set the in and set into parameter location dot query. You could also go ahead and use that namespace right here, so we could get rid of that long text. So let me just do that. using Microsoft Open API models, so we can really shorten up. There we go, in parameter query. And the final thing that we want to do is we want to set the type, and the type should be of type of string. Great. So basically this is all we got to do. Let me just zoom out for a second. So we got that Open API parameter. We set the name of that parameter to be name. We set it to required. We say that it's provided in the query and the type should be string. We could also go ahead and use a description here, but since I'm always zoomed in, I don't want to confuse you by having too many lines of code. So this is why I skip the description. You can add it if you like. Now also for Open API, what we want to do is we want to add the response. So let's configure another attribute, Open API response with body. Let's set the status code HTTP status code, so he doesn't know that. Hover above it. Let's just import the namespace, which is required for that, systemnet. So HTTP status code dot OK. So this is the success status code. Let's set the content type to be application.text. Set the body type to be type of string. And again, if you would like, you could add a description here. So this is just for Open API configuration, right? So this is just for Swagger so that we can test it. But that's really important. So this is why we decided to really include it to this video, because as I said, if you have functions, you really want to test them. And even though this requires some sort of configuration, right? Those are 3 lines of code, but in the end, you will save yourself so much time because you've set up a successful testing environment. Awesome. So save it and restart the application. If you do that, make sure that this window here is closed, because if you don't close that, you will have a problem restarting your application because the process cannot get shared for sure. So let's just Control F5 and restart the application. Okay, so now in Swagger UI, you need to open up that manually, right? You can see our get endpoint text to PDF. And now we have a parameter called name, which is required. So if we want to try that out, we have to submit the name now. You can also see that this endpoint now is returning a 200 response code. Oh, it could return a 200 response code for sure. So this is just documentation, right? As I said, you can also try it out. So click on try it out. Let's submit test here. Let's hit execute. And you can see that we got a 200 status code, which is responding to us, hello test, this HTTP triggered function executed successfully. Awesome. So now we are able to test our function using Open API. So text to PDF, the parameter should not be named name. It should be named text, for example. So in order to change from name to text, we just go ahead here, write down text. So we rename the parameter in Open API. And for sure, we also have to do that if we scroll down inside of that query here. So it's not longer a name, now it's text. Request query, grab the text parameter, and for sure we now have to adjust it here. So set everything just to text. So name, if we have a text, we want to go into the request body and grab the text parameter. Great, now just change it here too, and there we go. So we now have adjusted the name. So go ahead and restart your application. And if you update the page, you will be able to see that we changed it from name to text. Great. As I said, if you want to try it out, simply click on try it out. Now next up, let's bring in some real functionality for converting different files into PDF, and we will get started with text files. So for converting different file types, such as plain text, Word files, Excel files, images, PowerPoint files, or even HTML, we will use the Syncfusion PDF framework inside of each function to convert those files to PDF files. The Syncfusion PDF framework is a feature-rich framework for creating and converting different file types, such as those that are listed here, and even more, for example XPS, into PDF files in C# without the need of installing Adobe Acrobat or Microsoft Office on the target machine. Awesome, so now let's add some real functionality. Our text to PDF function should convert text to PDF and return a PDF file. So instead of responding with plain text, we should modify the function to print the name in a PDF and respond the PDF file. Let's get started and let's add a new package to our project. Here, I still got the CMD open, which we used to install the OpenAPI extension. Now what I want to run now is .NET add package syncfusion.pdf.net.core. So .NET add package syncfusion.pdf.net.core. Stuff is getting downloaded and installed and configured for our project. Awesome, so now we've added this package to our project. Scroll up to the very top and let's start using the syncfusion.pdf. Now scroll down again. Let's get started by creating a using directive and create a new PDF document. And we will do that right here. For me it's on line 35 now, because here we have already access to the parameters, so to the content, the text which we are sending in, right? Let's do this by using PDF document, just like this. Let me just zoom in a little bit more so that it's easier to read. So using PDF document, let's call it document, and it's a new document, right? So, and since we are using here some of the latest C# functionalities, we can simply go ahead and call new. So this is also working, but in terms of readability and in terms of following along, I like writing down that class. So new PDF document, you can for sure skip that and use, well, some of the latest features for sure, but our goal is to create videos which you can follow along easily and understand easily for sure. Now next up, we add a new page to this new PDF document. So we're gonna create, who would have guessed, a PDF page. Let's call it page. And this one is assigned to document.pages. So the new document, the PDF which we just created, and we want to add it. There we go. So what we do is we take that document, we go into the pages, we add a new page, and this for sure returns us the instance of that page, which we then have available right here. Now next up, we want to draw that content, that text that we have here, onto that PDF or into that PDF. For this, we add a PDF graphics object. Let's just insert that namespace, show potential fixes, Syncfusion PDF graphics. Let's call it graphics equals to page.graphics. And then we take that object, graphics.drawString. So, and in that case, you can see that we are able to draw some sort of text, for example. So let's pass in the text. Let me just go into the next line of code because that's easier to read. Now we want to set a font, for example. We can go ahead and use new PDF standard font. And we can use the PDF font family, for example, Helvetica, and set the size to 20. Now next up, we can set the color. So PDF brushes dot black. And finally, we can set the location of that text. We're going to use a new point F. There we go. Syncfusion drawing point F. You could for sure also go ahead and add that to the namespace. So make a using directive. And then we're going to set X 0 and Y. We will also set that to 0. Also, now let's close that. Let me just add some space here. And you can now see that we take the graphics object drawString with our text. We set it in Helvetica, size 20, make it black, and position it at the top left corner. Awesome, so let's move forward and let's create a new memory stream. Let's call it output PDF stream. And this one is a new memory stream. Now we take our document, so our new PDF, and we call the save method, which is taking a memory stream, and we will assign our output PDF stream right here. Now let's set the output stream.position to 0. So this basically resets the stream position. Now finally, Now finally, in order to release the allocated memory and resources, we simply take that document and call dispose. Awesome. Now let's take care of the actual returning, so of the response. As a content type, let's set content type here. We want to use application/PDF, right? Because we are returning a PDF now. Let's set the name of the downloadable file. So in the end, we're returning a file, right? So we need a file name. Let's set a string, set a file name. Let's call it document.pdf, for example. Now we want to tell the browser that we have a file here which should automatically get downloaded and saved. So in that case, what we want to do is we want to take that request that we have, go into the HTTP context, go into the response, go into the headers, and we want to add a new header there, which is called content-disposition. Now we want to add an attachment here. Let me just jump into the next line of code. We need to define it that way. Let's format the string. So use a $sign here, attachment, add a semicolon, and now let's interpolate here. Let's add the file name. Basically, this is what we have to do. Awesome. So now we have added a new header for content disposition so that the attachment automatically, or the PDF in the end, will get downloaded. Or to be more specific, we are using that header to tell the client that the response contains an attachment of type PDF. Great. So one last step. Instead of returning a new OK object result and that response message here, let's get rid of that response message. We don't need that anymore. And instead of OK object result, we want to return a new file content result. And what we want to do here is we want to take the output stream .toArray and then set the content type. So this is how we can basically, well, return an object or return a PDF file in that scenario simply by taking a stream and making an array, a byte array from that. Now, since we changed from text to PDF, right? So the content type is now application PDF. Just scroll up because we need to modify it also here in the content type for OpenAPI response with body, because we want to keep our documentation in Swagger up to date, application/PDF. Great. So let's save it like this and start the application. Let's open up Swagger and update the page. You can see that we got the text here now. Let's click on try it out. Write down some text. Let's say hello world, right? What else could we enter here? Let's hit execute. You can now see that we get a response body and you can see download file here. So let's do that. You can see we got a 200 status code. So the request was successful. Let's download the file. It's getting downloaded right now. And if I open up that file, you can see that this PDF file now contains our string content. Awesome. So this is what Syncfusion is bringing to us, which is quite amazing, right? You got that free trial, which you can use to get that amazing functionality, converting different file types and text and images to PDFs, which is really cool. Awesome. So now we created a function that converts plain text to PDF. Let's move forward. And before we go to Word, Excel, image, and PowerPoint, we will now take that function and upload it to Azure so that we are really able to test our existing function now, including all of its functionality, using a real cloud environment. And afterwards, we will take care of the functionality for Word files, Excel files, images, and PowerPoint so that you in the end have one Azure Functions application with 5 functions in total. So you will have an amazing application in the end. Awesome. So basically, this is my brand new Azure account here. I can start a free trial and get $200 in free credits to test the product. So if you are new to Azure, you will have the same stuff. If you have an existing account, you're most likely to be already used to a lot of stuff going on here. So the portal of Azure is really a huge application. It's super huge and it gets updated really often. So what we want to do is, or what you should know is, that we have some sort of application structure here. By default, if you host a web application, for example, you have a subscription, like for your business, And inside that subscription, you have a resource group for your specific client, for example, or for your specific client application. And inside of that resource group, you have an app service, which is just like a server, and you have a database server, for example, and a lot of other stuff. So this is the sort of structure that we have here in Azure. But fortunately, for our Azure Functions, it's a little bit easier, and therefore we need to discover less features here. So what we want to do is we want to go to create a resource here, Azure Services, right? You can also use the search bar for nearly everything at the top. Well, and you can see that function app here. This is what we want to create. So click on create right under function app. Now let's create our function, our new resource. So we can let Azure create a new resource group. That's absolutely fine. You pick your subscription here. Let's provide a name and make sure that you can see that we get a domain for this, right? So whatever we write down here, let's say, for example, testfunctions.azurewebsites.net, that may not be available because you will get a domain. So what we could do, for example, please go ahead and choose your own name, because if everyone who's watching this video is taking the same name, you will not be able to move forward, right? But you could do something like Azure, for example, conversion, like Azure PDF conversion or something like that, right? So what I will do now, I will take something like tutorial CU PDF conversion, just like that. You can for sure also add dashes into that name and all of that. So in the end, the domain will be tutorial CU PDF conversion.azurewebsites.net. Awesome. So we want to publish code. That's right. We want to pick the runtime stack.net. We want to take the version 6. We want to set a region, Central US is fine. You can also pick different regions. And for the operating system, we want to take Windows. You can also take Linux, but then you need to make sure that all of the functionality inside your application is also working on Linux for sure. But we set up the project for Windows, so this is why we select Windows. And as the plan type, and this is important, we don't want to take consumption, we want to take app service plan for now. So in that scenario, we will get, well, a new app service, and we can configure the power of that app service. So as you can see right now, we got the standard S1 plan with 1.75 gigabyte of memory. We want to change the size, and I really suggest you to do the same, because here it can get a little bit pricey, right? You can see that the selected or pre-selected server is at 61.56 euros per month. So what you want to do, you want to switch to dev/test environment and go ahead with that D1 shared infrastructure. You want to take that one. Now let's hit apply, and keep in mind it's called shared D1. So the important part is the D1 here. Now basically this is all we have to do. So let's click review and create. You can now go through all of this here, and if you're happy with your configuration, simply hit create. Awesome. So now everything is set up, and the deployment of that resource group and that app service and all of that is now in progress. So give it a little bit of time, but you can already see that stuff is popping up right now. And once everything's done, you can see just like this, your deployment is complete and you can go to resource. Awesome. So this is your Azure Functions application. So this one is right now empty, but this is the environment that we need. Now on the left side, click on functions. And here we want to see all of our functions. Right now we have one listed later on. So what we want to do now is we now want to take our application, our function, right, our text to PDF function right here, and we want to deploy it to this Azure Function app. So next up, let's see how we can deploy our function to our cloud environment. So in order to deploy our functions application, you can either use the Azure CLI and simply run the command which is called func Azure function app, publish, and then the name of your Azure portal resource which we have just created. So you can see that name in Azure. For me it was tutorial CU PDF conversion, right? If you want to deploy your application from Visual Studio instead, you want to right click on your Azure Functions application here and select Publish. Now next up, select Azure, hit Next. You can see that Azure Function app, which is what we have created in Azure Portal, right? So select that. Now make sure to select the function instance here. select your desired subscription. And inside here, I can now see, because I changed my subscription, that I got that Tutorial CU PDF conversion group. And inside there, I got the Tutorial CU PDF conversion. Now simply select Tutorial CU PDF conversion or whatever name you have given it, right? So the app service plan, select it and hit next. Now for API management, what we want to do is we want to skip this step since it's not required right now. So let's hit finish. Great. So you can now see that we set up our publishing profile successfully and that we are now able to really start publishing it. So let's hit publish right now. So for me, I can now see at the bottom of the screen that the build succeeded, the publishing succeeded, and now it's waiting for the function app to be ready. Now it pops up, publish succeeded. Let's click on open site. Or you can instead simply go to your portal Azure. Awesome, so you can now see your Functions 4.0 app is up and running. This is what you should see now, that's amazing. And here you can see your own Azure website's URL. So this is where our Functions app is now running. Let's switch over to our Azure portal. Here we are inside of our Tutorial CU PDF conversion, and on the left side I clicked on Functions. Now let's refresh the page. You can now see that we got the text to PDF function right here, and it's triggered by HTTP, the status is enabled, and that's really amazing. So everything seems to got deployed successfully. Now simply click on that function that we have right here. And on the left side, click on Code and Test. Great, now click on Test and Run. Let's try it out. Let's set the HTTP method to GET. Let's add a parameter. We called that parameter text. So let's write down hello world here. And let's run. Now the function should be called successfully. Let's give it a second. Here you can see at the console below, executing text to PDF, process the request, and then execute the text to PDF succeeded. That's the important part. You can see 200 OK status code here. For sure, we are not able to really be able to download the PDF or display it here. So however, based on the status code and based on the log, we can assume that everything works fine. Now let's give it a real try to check if we are actually able to download that PDF. So what we want to do is we want to go to Swagger UI, but this time not on localhost. No, we want to do that in the real cloud environment. So simply click on Get Function URL. Now let's copy that and let's paste it in a new browser tab. So this is the API text to PDF. Now let's add a question mark. Let's add a parameter called text and let's add a value called hello, just to make it very simple. Let's hit enter. Well, you can see that text to PDF got downloaded right here. Let's open it up. And again, you can see hello being displayed. Awesome. So this is really by using the actual URL. Let's go and visit Swagger. So just paste your URL again, but instead of going to text to PDF, we want to go to API/Swagger/UI. So here we are at Swagger UI in our Tutorial CU PDF conversion Azure websites domain. So in our real application, and you can again test your endpoints here and all of that. It might be that Swagger has a problem with downloading files, but that's not a problem because you can test for status codes, right? Great, so now we have successfully uploaded our Functions app and we tested it in 3 ways. Azure itself, here with the test and code functionality. We got Swagger and we can directly call it using the browser window, Postman, or whatever you want to use to actually call that functionality. Great, so now let's move on and add some more functionality to our application. Next up, we want to take care of Word to PDF. So for that, go to Visual Studio again, and in the Solution Explorer on the right side, let's right click on our project node, which is the Azure Functions app right here. Right click on that and let's add a new item here. Now search for Azure Function. You can also go ahead and use the search bar, right? So Azure Function. So simply select that and let's give it a better name, not Function 1. Let's call it Word to PDF and let's hit add then. Again, we want to use an HTTP trigger, authorization level anonymous. Let's hit add. As you can see, we now have a new function which already has a better name, function name word to PDF, so that name of the file, which we really want to have so we don't have to adjust it that way. And as you can see, everything else is exactly the same, well, layout. Again, we have a request query name right here. We have that, well, post block or post body accessing to get the data from the request body. So just as we had it with our first function. Alright, so let's clear everything here. We don't need anything of it. So let's remove the entire code block here. In that scenario, the user is uploading a file, a Word file, right? Which he wants to convert into PDF. So he doesn't provide any, well, primitive data type like a string or an integer. No, he will upload a file. So what we want to do is we want to grab that file from the request by accessing the request.form.files. Let's assume he's only uploading one file, and then we can just take that array here and take the very first element of it. Let's create a new memory stream. So using var word stream equals to new memory stream. Great. Let's take that text file and copy it to our stream. So what we want to do is we want to use an asynchronous function. Let's take that uploaded text file or Word file, right, and copy it to async, and we want to copy it to the Word stream. Now next up, let's reset the Word stream position to 0. So next time we are accessing the stream, we want to start at the very beginning, right? So this is why we're doing that. Now let's install the NuGet package. Let's go to tools. This time we are making it via the package manager visual user interface here, which we can use. So let's click on browse and search for Syncfusion doc.io renderer. Now you can see doc.io renderer.net core, right? We want to use that. You can see it's installed like or downloaded a million times, so it's really used a lot of times. So let's select that for our Azure Functions project and then install it. Right, as you can see, it's a feature-rich and high-performance .NET Word library, which allows you to convert Word documents like doc, dot, docm, and all of that. So let's accept here. Let's switch back to our Word to PDF here. Let's create a Word document. So var Word equals to new Word document. And for that, we for sure have to use a new namespace. So let's do that. Show potential fixes. And we want to use Syncfusion doc.io DLS. Let's assign the word stream. And we want to use a format type. So format type of docx. Great. Also for that, we need a new namespace. It's not a problem at all. Just give it a second to load. There we go. Awesome. So what's happening is that a person uploads a Word file, we create a new Word document of type docx, and then we will convert it now into a PDF. So for that, we need to use the doc.io renderer. There we go, but I need to spell it capital letter here, there, io, doc.io renderer. And again, we need a new namespace for that. Show doc.io renderer. Let's call it renderer, and it's a new one. There we go. Let's create a PDF. So var PDF equals to take that renderer and call convert to PDF, right? And now take that Word file, which we have just created here, or that Word document, right? So we take that file, we read it, we create a Word document from it, we create a renderer to, well, be able to convert that file, and then we convert that Word document into PDF file. Now let's close the Word document here to release all the resources. That's what we have to do. We're going to create a new memory stream again. So using memory stream, let's call it PDF stream this time, and it's a new stream. There we go. Let's take the PDF. So PDF, which we are creating right here. And let's save it to a stream. So PDF stream. Again, afterwards, free all the resources, so call close. Reset the stream position. PDF stream.position equals to 0. Now we can start defining the actual response, right? Great, so you can also split it up like that if it's easier for you to follow along, absolutely no problem. So let's define string content type equals to application/PDF. We can define a file name again, so file name equals to document.pdf. Again, we need a content disposition header, but I'm gonna copy that over from text to PDF. So there we go. We just want to take that word to PDF and I want to paste it here. Request HTTP context response header at content disposition attachment and then file name. Finally, we need to return something here as a response. So we return a new file content result. Just as you know, we're gonna take the PDF stream. There we go, to array because we want to have a byte array to get downloaded, and then we set the content type to application PDF, which we have already done here. So in order to make it work at testing for Swagger, what we want to do is we want to go to the run method here and we want to add an open API request body, because this time the user for sure has to attach or has to upload something into a form. So open API request body, let's just add the namespace here using Microsoft Azure and all of that. So what we want to do is we want to set the content type, there you go, to multipart / form -data. Now in order to make that work, we also need the body type. But for that we need to add a small workaround which only takes a second really. So let's go to our Azure Functions, let's add a new C# class and let's call it multipart form data model. And what we want to do here, we simply want to, well, first of all, we want to make that public. And next up, we want to create a public byte array, and we call it file upload. And this is basically the data which the user is uploading. So this is what we need to have to make it work. Switch over to Word to PDF. Let's set the body type here. So let's add a comma. Let's set the body type to be type of, and then multipart form data model. Great. The last thing that we need to add is for sure we want to make that required. So let's set it to required equals to true. Great. So now we got the configuration set up as we want to have it. Just missing a parenthesis here. There we go. This is how it should look like now. We got a content type multipart form data. The body type is of type multipart form data, which is actually just looking like that. So we have a data transfer object here, just simple byte array, and then we make that required. Now finally, we need to add our response body, but we can also copy that over from our text to PDF. So scroll up, take that open API response with body, switch over to Word to PDF again. And what we want to do, we want to paste it here. So we got open API response with body, and then we got the status code, content type, application PDF, and body type. This time we don't set it to be type of string. Instead, we want to set it to be type of byte array. So type byte array. So in order to make it work, we for sure have to import the namespace systemnet. Great. Save it like this. Make sure to remove the get method because it doesn't make sense. We cannot upload the file using a get method. So let's get rid of the get. We only keep the post. Make sure that we set the authorization level to anonymous. So if that is not the case for you, set it to anonymous now. And then before we publish that, we want to add one more attribute, because if we don't specify that, we will not be able to see it appearing in Swagger at all. We want to add the open API operation. Great. So save it like this now. Select your Azure function in the Solution Explorer, right click and then hit on publish, and then go one step further and publish your application again to the Azure cloud. If you are interested in C# web development, check out our ASP.NET and Angular 21-day challenge, or how we call it now, C# Progress Academy. You can find the link in the description below. It's a premium course, it takes 21 days and you need around 30 minutes per day to complete the course. And yeah, you will build an entire flight booking portal. You can read everything very in detail here on that page. And this course teaches you ASP.NET Core and Angular in the end, so that you are finally job ready. If you then go back to your portal.azure into the functions, you can see that we now have Word to PDF also here. So what you can do if you want to test that out, you can for sure get the function URL and use Postman or something like that, or we simply switch over to our domain /API/Swagger/UI to be able to see that all here inside of Swagger. And you can see that we have that post here, Word to PDF, right? And if we now open it up and try it out, we are able to upload a file. So payload of an array byte, and I downloaded a docx test file. So I will now select that. There we go. And if I now click on execute, let's see if we get a 200 status code, because that's what we need. It takes some time, but afterwards we can see status code 200 and we are actually able to download the file. So let's take a look. So this is what I just uploaded and it actually works fine. So it got converted from Word to PDF. So we are able to convert a Word file into a PDF file using that Azure function. So now we have used the Syncfusion framework one more time to take Word documents and convert them into PDF files. Next up, let's take care of the functionality of converting Excel files to PDF files. Again, right click on your project and let's add a new item. Select Azure Function again. And this time we call it Excel to PDF. One more time, HTTP trigger, authorization level anonymous. Make sure to always select it that way so that everyone can access your function. So to be honest, like we need to really copy over a lot of stuff here. So what I want to do is I want to go to Word PDF. I want to copy everything from OpenAPI operation to the very bottom and then get rid of some specific elements. So let's click on Excel to PDF again to switch over. We will keep the function name, but everything else we want to replace that, just like this. Now I want to switch back to Word to PDF again and copy over most of the namespaces that we are using. And then maybe if something is not getting used, well, we can leave JSON right now here, so that's fine. Okay, now we got it configured that way. So we have the post request, and yeah, we really saved ourselves a lot of time because we can really reuse a lot of stuff from here. Now the first thing that we want to do, so we want to adjust the naming. So we still take that file from the upload. This time the user is uploading an Excel file, right? And we're creating a memory stream here. So let's rename it and let's call it Excel stream, right? So it should still be refactored because another programmer might want to take a look at it and may get confused if he sees Excel to PDF and then Word stream, right? So let's do it like this. Text file copy. We again reset the stream position from that part. So Excel stream position set to 0. Now we handle the Word part, right? So we can switch that over to Excel now. So what we want to do is we want to remove that Word document .io renderer, convert to PDF. We just want to remove it that way. And then we keep everything from the PDF stream right here. And afterwards we got the content type, the file name, and all of the, well, default stuff that we will now have in all of the other functions too. Let's install another package. So go to NuGet solution and this time search for Syncfusion and then XLS IO renderer. You can see we got the XLS IO renderer.NET Core and we want to install that one. Great. So now go to excel.pdf again. And what we want to do is here in line 35 for me, we want to create a new using and then Excel engine. Let's call it Excel engine. And it's a new Excel engine for sure. So let's import the namespace for the Excel engine. And now let's create a new reference to the Excel engine's application. So what we want to do is application equals to Excel engine.excel. You can see interface to the XLSIO application, which gives access to all supported functions. Now for the application, we need to set a default version. So let's set it to application default version. We can set it, for example, to Excel version.excel 2013. So for Excel, we need to create a so-called workbook. So let's create a workbook. application. So we take excel.workbooks.open. We want to take the Excel stream. Then we set the Excel open type to be open type automatic. And the Excel parse options, we're going to set them to default. Now, after creating the workbook, we can use the XLS.io renderer. You might need to import that namespace to really render that workbook. So let's create a new renderer. Let's create the PDF document now. So var PDF document equals to renderer.convert to PDF, right? So this time we got the XLS.io renderer. So XLS is typical for Excel for sure. And we take that renderer and convert our Excel file into a PDF again. Great. Now we have that document. We create the stream again. Now let's take that PDF document and use it here. So we take the PDF document and we save the stream, and then we want to close it for sure. Then we reset the position for the stream, set the content type, the file name, and we are good to go already. So this is basically all what we have to adjust. We just adjusted the point of, well, after uploading the file, we take the Excel engine and XLS.io renderer to create a workbook and then render that workbook and convert it into a PDF. And then basically we again take that document, put it into a stream and actually just make it ready to get downloaded. Great. So again, publish that to your Azure application. And yes, for sure, you can also try that out locally. So if you just run the application, you can test it out using Swagger. All right. So in Azure, you can now see that we have that Excel to PDF here. So again, let's switch over to Swagger and let's try it out. So let me just update the page. And again, I downloaded a test sample XLS, which is an Excel file for sure. And here we got Excel to PDF. We got the file upload again. So let me just upload a file. There we go, test example XLS. Let's download it and open it up. So click on execute. It may take a while. And that for sure depends on a lot of factors. So there we go, let's download and take a look. So this is basically what we got from that. So here we have like a couple of rows and a couple of columns. And we have that right, text alignment right and text alignment left, and everything, all of that configuration gets transported from Excel to PDF. So now we have added the functionality to convert Excel to PDF using the Syncfusion framework again. So now we have 3 out of 5 functions ready and our application starts growing, and we offer some more amazing functionalities for our users. Cool, so now let's move forward and add another nice functionality, which is converting images to PDFs. So what we want to do is we again want to right click on the project and we want to add a new Azure function. And for sure, we want to call it image to PDF. And this time, again, HTTP trigger and set it to anonymous just as always. Now again, to save ourselves some time, let's go to the Excel PDF. Let's copy everything here, but not the function name. So, and then let's replace it here for the image to PDF, but we can really remove some more stuff this time because we need to adjust a little bit more. But let me first of all bring in all the dependencies that we need here. Let me just paste that inside here. As I said, you can for sure move forward and get rid of the unused stuff, absolutely no problem. Great. So here we got our text file. We will rename that to image, but we can remove everything else for now to keep it, well, a little bit more visible. Yeah, let's remove everything here. So we got our text file, let's rename it to image. And for sure, it's again inside of the form because the person is uploading it. And what we want to do is we want to create a new using, or let's call it image stream, and it's a new memory stream for sure. And we want to await on that image to copy to async. So we want to copy that image to the image stream. Now afterwards, once that's done, we want to take that image stream and set the position to 0 again. So next time when we use that stream, we want to start at the beginning of it. And then let's create a new PDF document. So using PDF document as we did it at the very first function. So let's create a simple new one. There we go. Let's add a new page to it. So make sure the PDF document here is using the correct namespace. PDF page equals to, we take the document, we go to the pages and we add a new page. Now let's get the size of the page to actually, well, so that we are able to draw that image so that it fits the actual page size. Let's do that by using the size F. There we go. We need to import namespace for that, equals to page.getClientSize. We need a namespace here, hover above it, show potential fixes. Use Syncfusion.drawing, not system.drawing. Now let's create a new bitmap here. So using PDF bitmap, this is also a new namespace, equals to new. We want to create that from the image stream. So PDF bitmap, let's just go ahead and show potential fixes and Syncfusion PDF graphics. Now let's draw that image onto the page, but for sure we need to adjust the naming here because we have a conflict. This is image. Let's right click and let's call it image file. There we go. So we have no naming conflict. And then we have the PDF bitmap image, new image stream, and we want to take our page. We want to go to the graphics of that page. We want to draw an image, there we go. We want to draw that bitmap which we have just created. We want to start at the top left corner, so we create a new rectangle F. We set it to 0, 0, so top left corner, and it should be, now we should define the size, right? So it should be the entire page size.width and the entire page size.height. Now let's save this PDF. So using var, let's create an output PDF stream here. It's a new memory stream again for sure, and we want to dock. Take that PDF and we want to save it to that output stream. And once we are done with that, we want to doc.close. We want to release the allocated resources. Finally, for sure, set the output PDF stream position to 0 so that when we use the stream next time, we start at the beginning of the stream. Now everything else is still valid. Here we got our output PDF stream and all of that. We can now just adjust the name. Instead of PDF stream, output PDF stream.toArray. So again, we return a byte array. So everything here just stays as it is. Now, again, go ahead and publish this to your Azure application. So in Azure, update your functions page. Sometimes it takes a small while, like 1, 2 or 3 minutes to actually, well, show your function. Now we have that image to PDF. You can test this again, and we want to go to Swagger one more time. Let's just update the page here. Now let's just close it. Oh, not default here. There we go. And you can see image to PDF now. So what I want to do is I want to try that out, and I want to select an image file. Now after uploading or selecting it, I want to hit execute again. So this went quite fast. 200 status code, so it should work. Let's download and take a look. All right, there we go. So this is basically what we got. And yes, for sure, now the aspect ratio is manipulated, but that's because I said that I want to stretch the image to the entire height and width for sure. And for sure, there are a lot of configurations that you can apply to that image conversion. So for example, that you keep the aspect ratio. However, the main functionality of converting an image into PDF is working fine. Great, so now we have completed the image to PDF functionality too using the Syncfusion framework. Now we got one last functionality to cover, which is converting PowerPoint to PDF, and then you would have created a complete web application which consists of 5 Azure functions, each of them offering its own functionality. And chances are that you know some sort of applications out there which are offering exactly this functionality and they're taking money for it. So there are converters out there which are actually making a good living just by offering that specific service. So let's move forward and implement the PowerPoint conversion. So for the PowerPoint presentation, we will again add a new Azure function. This time we call it PowerPoint to PDF, and again we select HTTP trigger, set the authorization level to anonymous. Go to image to PDF again, copy everything except the function name and bring it to PowerPoint to PDF. There we go. Awesome. And for sure, we also want to go ahead and copy all of the namespaces just to speed things up, right? So that's just because why we are doing that. Awesome. Okay, so now we got the functionality, well, copied over here. And now we can start from here and work on PowerPoint to PDF. So again, go to our NuGet package manager here. Search for Syncfusion.presentation renderer. And again, we want to take the .NET Core package here, Syncfusion Presentation Renderer. And you can see Syncfusion PowerPoint library is a feature-rich and high-performance .NET PowerPoint library that allows you to create, manipulate, and convert PowerPoint documents such as PPTX, PPTM, POTX, and POTM. So as I said, it's a library for converting PowerPoint files. Now let's install it. Afterwards, switch back to PowerPoint to PDF. And what we want to do, we want to create a new presentation. For that, I would just bring that a little bit lower because we need to adjust it here. It's no longer an image file, right? So let's rename it and let's call it presentation file. And we have no image stream. Instead, we have a, let's call it, right click, PPTX, so PowerPoint PPTX stream. Let's call it like this. I guess that's the best way. Then we want to take that presentation file and we want to copy it to our PowerPoint stream. Now let's create, using iPresentation, and it's presentation.open PPTX stream. So this is for sure the Syncfusion library here. So let's start using it. Syncfusion presentation. So we got a presentation and we open it from the stream. And to make it work, we need to write that in uppercase because it's class. There we go. Now let's create some kind of settings for that. So let's just take the presentation to PDF converter settings. So let's import a namespace for that. So it's a pretty long name, right? Using Syncfusion presentation to PDF converter. There we go. So we want to call that settings, and it's new. And we want to configure it. And that's why I add the curly braces and then the semicolon. And we want to define show hidden slides. And we want to set it to true. Now let's finally convert it. So let's create a PDF document again. And we call it PDF document. And it's presentation to PDF converter. We want to use that and actually convert the presentation with the following settings, or with the settings that we have defined here. So this is the presentation, so the PowerPoint file, and here we got the settings defined. Awesome. And this is in the end creating a PDF from it then. Now again, we want to bring that PDF document into a stream, but we got all of that. So let's just remove the graphic stuff from the previous one so that we have that output PDF stream here, which is a new stream. We want to take that PDF document and all of this just like that. We want to save it, we want to close it, we want to reset the position, and then finally return it back as a response to the client. Great. So once again, you can see how easy it is to add some sort of new functionality using Syncfusion, right? That's pretty cool for that kind of functionality that we are looking for right now. So go ahead, publish it to Azure again. Cool. And as you can see, here we got our PowerPoint to PDF. So let's try that out in Swagger one more time. Simply reload the page. And then we can upload a PPTX file, so a PowerPoint presentation file, for example. Here we got it, PowerPoint. Try it out. Let me upload a file. There we go. Let's hit execute. There we go. Got a 200 status code, which is okay, so it worked. And let's download and take a look. Okay, and as you can see, it works fine. We took that PPTX file, we uploaded it to our PowerPoint to PDF Azure function, and this is the result, and that looks absolutely amazing. Awesome, and that's it. So you now have created a complete Azure function application containing 5 individual functions. So each of them has its own functionality, its own logic, and for sure its own purpose. You also have learned how to deploy that application into the Azure cloud so that it is available for everyone. If you also want to use Syncfusion in your future products, go ahead and check out the link in the description below. And if you want to see more Azure content, go ahead, give this video a thumb up and write into the comments what you want to see. Now, one last thing, if you like this video, subscribe to our channel so that you no longer miss any of our programming videos. So thanks for watching, and if you want to continue learning about C# web development, go ahead and check out our ASP.NET Core beginner course. It should be highlighted right now. See you next time.